In December 2016, hundreds of the most gifted teenage mathematicians on the planet had been brought together for one event, the International Mathematical Olympiad. Standing among them was a team from the most secretive nation on Earth. 6 young men in white shirts, the faces of the Kim family pinned over their hearts. Only one of them wasn't thinking about the competition. His name was Jong Yol. And while his teammates stood composed, his eyes kept drifting sideways. It wasn't stage fright. In his mind, he was calculating an 11-minute window to find a South Korean diplomat, who might not even exist. Make one mistake, and North Korea would make a brutal example of his entire family. But this was his last and only chance to escape. He wasn't just defecting from a dictatorship. He was walking away from North Korea's most dangerous billion-dollar cyber weapon. And that chance? He was taking it. In North Korea, your future is decided before you're born. Your family's background determines everything. The school you attend, the food on your plate, the job you're assigned, the life you're permitted to live. Jong Yol was one of the fortunate ones. His family carried a history tied to resistance against Japanese occupation. That meant slightly more privilege, slightly more access. In a country of near total deprivation, he had slightly more of everything. His father saw something in him early and refused to let it go to waste. Every single day, before Jong was allowed outside, multiplication tables were drilled into him. No exceptions, no shortcuts. It sounds harsh, but here's what it produced. At 12 years old, Jong Yol entered a national mathematics competition and defeated students years older than him. Convincingly, he had been noticed, not just by teachers, by the regime itself. From that moment, doors opened that ordinary North Koreans never see. A specialized mathematics education, advanced training programs, and something almost unbelievable in a country where personal computers barely existed. A laptop, loaded with mathematics software, belonging only to him. But there was no internet. Power cuts were constant, so Jong built a solar panel to keep it charged. In winter, he ran a gasoline generator, a 12-year-old, building his own power infrastructure, just to keep learning. That kind of obsession is exactly what the regime had been searching for. But here's the question nobody was asking out loud. Why? As Jong Yol grew older and his talent placed him on North Korea's International Olympiad team, a dark realization began to creep in. The regime had invested years in him, a laptop, specialized training, international travel to Colombia for his first global competition. These are privileges virtually no ordinary North Korean ever experiences. And the Kim regime does not give gifts out of generosity. They wanted a return on their investment. While Jong was solving equations, his government was fundamentally changing how it funded its dictatorship. Crushed by international sanctions, North Korea had realized that a kid with a laptop was far more dangerous and far more profitable than a soldier with a rifle. Jong didn't know it yet, but he wasn't being trained to be a mathematician. He was being groomed for the Lazarus group, North Korea's most elite, ruthless, state-backed cyber unit. While Jong was competing for medals, programmers just like him, recruited at the exact same age, were draining hundreds of millions of dollars from global banks. They were the architects behind the devastating 2014 Sony Pictures attack and the near billion-dollar heist on the Bangladesh Central Bank. There was one Lazarus operative in particular, a man named Park Jin-hyok. Like Jong, he was a prodigy. Like Jong, he was absorbed by the state. Today, he is one of the FBI's most wanted men, churning out custom malware and crippling global networks from the shadows. He has no life of his own. He is simply a weapon. And as Jong returned home from Colombia with a silver medal around his neck, he looked at Park Jin-hyok's life and realized he was looking into a mirror. The confirmation came quietly. A trusted friend pulled Jong aside. Senior figures from a government intelligence agency had been asking questions about Jong to his friends, his family. The assessment had begun. In North Korea, military cyber recruitment is not a job offer. You don't negotiate. You don't hand in a resume. One day, a black car arrives. You are absorbed into a facility, and the boy you were ceases to exist. You become a ghost, a permanent prisoner to a keyboard, forced to steal billions for a regime while your own family starves. Jong Yol was 17 years old. He had only weeks left before the trap snapped shut forever. But he had exactly one window left open. IMO competitors aged out at 18. One competition remained before that door closed permanently. One last chance to stand on foreign soil, without a government handler watching his every movement. Hong Kong, 2016. He had already decided. The pressure inside the competition hall was immense. Jong Yol competed. He focused. He performed. He won a second silver medal. And then, with minimal supervision and his team's escorts momentarily distracted, he made his move. In the end, it happened with almost unsettling simplicity. Just a young man stepping through a door, raising his hand for a taxi, and asking the driver to take him to the airport. At the terminal, with the help of an airline worker, the address of the South Korean consulate was obtained. A second taxi, a short ride across the city, a knock on a door. Standing before a South Korean diplomat, Jong Yol said what he had rehearsed in his mind 1,000 times. He wanted to defect. What followed was 70 days of silence. 70 days in Hong Kong, completely alone. While diplomats negotiated his fate behind closed doors. 70 days not knowing whether he would make it to Seoul or be quietly handed back. At the end of those 70 days, safe passage was granted. North Korea's response came swiftly. The entire IMO program was suspended. 2 full years. Gone. When it eventually resumed, a government intelligence agent was embedded permanently within the team. No student would be left unsupervised again. Jong is now in his early 30s and goes by a South Korean name. He studied mathematics at Seoul National University. He has still not seen his parents since he defected. Jong Yol saved himself. But in North Korea, every escape casts a shadow. His father, the man whose obsession built the mathematician in him, who gave Jong Yol the skills that made his escape possible, is almost certainly living in a prison of his own now. Those closest to him, stripped of privileges and opportunity, were likely pushed to the lowest rungs of society, branded forever as the family of a defector to the South, their every move scrutinized, their family name stained by a son who chose freedom. That is how the regime works. It doesn't always lock the door. Sometimes it just removes every reason to open one. Jong Yol knew this. And yet, what was the alternative? Stay. Help steal billions for a regime that would never let him leave? Help enable a system that would go on to destroy lives around the world? Or choose the greater good and destroy one family instead? He made the only human choice available to him. But that choice carried a cost he did not pay alone. That is the question every defector carries, and perhaps never answers. When you walk through the door to save yourself, knowing exactly who is left standing on the other side, does that make you free? Or does it make you the reason they aren't?